Welcome to my revision course on bookkeeping. My name is Senior Hannington, your accounting tutor. Of course, it's my privilege to help you get through your accounting exams. Today, we are going to look at the trial balance. Today, we'll look at the trial balance. We are going to see what the trial balance is, and then what are the uses of a trial balance, and then we are going to look at how to extract a trial balance from the ledger accounts of a business. I have a sample question we are going to use. This is from UBUTEM, that is Uganda Business and Technical Examinations Board, Business and Humanities Certificate Examination. So this is April-May 2023 series. The paper name is Bookkeeping. And I'll take you straight to our question of the day, which we are going to go through here. So this is question 6. State 2 uses of a trial balance in accounting. But of course, we are going to first look at what a trial balance is before we even look at its uses. Now, in accounting, when we are doing the recording of the transactions are recorded in the books of accounts following the double entry bookkeeping system. With the double entry bookkeeping system, of course, each and every transaction should be entered in the books of accounts twice. There should be a debit entry in one account, and at the same time, there has to be a credit entry in the other account. So at the end of the day, total debit entries should always equal to the total credit entries. That is according to the double entry bookkeeping, that for each and every debit entry, there is a credit entry, and for each credit entry, there is a debit entry. So all the items that have been recorded in all the accounts on the debit side should equal in total all the items recorded on the credit side of the account. However, we need to check for each debit entry, there is also an equal credit entry. And of course, in order to check that there is a matching credit entry for every debit entry, we prepare something called the trial balance. We prepare something called the trial balance. So we are going to first see what a trial balance is. Then after, we shall look at the uses of the trial balance. So part A, state 2 uses of a trial balance. So I can simply say that the trial balance, of course, if I'm to define what a trial balance is, a trial balance we need to first of all see what a trial balance is. Trial balance. The trial balance, it's a list. Trial balance, it's defined as a list. We can say it's a list of accounts. It's a list of account titles and their balances in the ledger. Their balances in the ledger, of course, on a specific date shown in debit and credit columns. So after entering the different transactions in the ledgers, we have to balance off the ledgers. Then after balancing off the ledgers, the next step is to prepare what we call a trial balance. Okay. Don't forget that in the trial balance, total debit balances should be equal to the total credit balances. That's according to the double entry bookkeeping system. Total debit balances should always equal to the total credit balances. Now they have asked for the uses, two uses of a trial balance, two uses of a trial balance in accounting. Two uses of a trial balance in accounting. Now, the trial balance in accounting, of course, it serves two main functions, which we can look at. It serves two main functions. Let us try to look at some of the uses of the trial balance. First of all, the trial balance is used to check the arithmetic accuracy of the double entry system. If we want to check the accuracy of our double entry system, then we have to prepare the trial. We have to prepare the trial balance. So number one, the trial balance is used to check the arithmetic accuracy of the double entry system. So if you want to check if all the debit entries have corresponding credit entries, then of course we shall have to prepare the trial balance, and it can help us to check the arithmetic accuracy of our double entry system. Now, the second use of this trial balance, after extracting a trial balance, this trial balance is going to help you to come up with the financial statements at the end of the period. The balances for each and every account that is listed in the trial balance will help you to prepare the financial statements, because these are balances for assets, balances for liabilities, balances for incomes and expenses, which you will use when preparing the income statement and the balance sheet. So we can say that the trial balance can be used as a list from which to prepare the financial statements. From which prepare the financial statements. Of course, it is generally used to prepare an income statement, generally used to prepare an income statement and the statement of financial position. Those are the main uses of the trial balance in accounting. So that is part A of our question. you were asked to state the two uses of a trial balance in accounting. So meaning that each use, that is 2 marks, because here we have 4 marks for 2 uses. Then part B, the trial balance can balance even when there are errors. That the trial balance can balance even when there are errors. Explain 4 errors in this case. Explain 4 errors in this case. Now, when it comes to the trial balance, of course, the trial balance can balance. It can balance even when there are errors. The trial balance can balance even when there are errors. So we are going to look at those errors not affecting the trial balance agreement. Of course, they want you to explain 4 errors, and meaning that each error you explain, you'll be getting 2 marks for each, because there are 4 errors required, and we see they are awarding 8 marks for that part. So let's look at the errors. Let's try to look at those errors that do not affect the balance sheet agreements. So let us look at the errors. Part B of our question, errors. Not affecting trial balance agreements. Errors not affecting the trial balance agreement. You're required to explain any 4 of these errors. So let's try to look at those errors that do not affect the balancing of the trial balance. I'll explain them, giving you some examples as well. So let us look at these errors one by one. Remember, as I told you, that in accounting, we normally follow the double entry system. And if we follow the rules, that every debit, let me state the rule here, which we always have to follow. Okay, I can just say that the trial balance, something which you need to know for purposes of understanding, the trial balance, the trial balance totals will be the same. Would be the same in the brackets balance. The trial balance totals would be the same in brackets balance if all debit entries, if all debit entries have a corresponding credit entry, have corresponding credit entries, and if all credit entries have a corresponding debit entry. So if that rule is always followed, then the trial balance totals would be the same. The trial balance totals would be the same. However, just know that there are some errors which would not affect the agreement of the trial balance totals. Okay, there are some errors which would not affect the balancing of the trial balance totals. And these are the errors which they want you to discuss. Errors not affecting the trial balance agreement. So yes, there can be debits with the corresponding credits. So meaning that your trial balance will balance, but there can be some errors that can be made, and these will not affect the balancing of the trial balance. So let us look at the types of errors. Types of errors which do not affect the agreement. Of the trial balance totals. Number one of these errors is error of omission. Error of omission. Now, when you talk about error of omission, you need to understand this very well. Error of omission, what I can say about this, error of omission, we can say for error of omission, this is where a transaction, where a transaction is completely omitted. Where a transaction is completely omitted from the books of accounts. So meaning that if we omit a transaction from our books of accounts, there will be no debit and there will be no corresponding credit. So this does not affect your trial balance agreement because a transaction has been completely omitted. Okay, so your trial balance will still your trial balance totals will still be the same if there was a transaction that was omitted. Then the second error is error of commission. Error of commission. Error of commission. You also need to look at error of commission. We need to know what this means, error of commission. When we talk about an error of commission, this is the type of error which occurs. Type of error which occurs when the correct amount, is entered, but in a wrong person's account. But in a wrong personal account. This type of error occurs when the correct amount is entered, but in a wrong personal account. I can give you an example. For example, if we have a sale, for example, a sale of shillings for 1 million to Didan. If a sale of shillings 1 million to Didan is entered in the account of Digan. So this is an error of commission, okay? So correct amount is entered, but the amount has been entered in a wrong personal account. Okay. Sometimes you may find that the names look to be similar, though they are different names of customers or suppliers, but you mistakenly enter the transaction in a wrong personal account. So such errors are known as errors of commission. Then the third error we can look at that does not affect the trial balance agreement. This is error of principle. We have errors of principle. Errors of principle. We also need to know what an error of principle is. Error of principle. We can say that this is where an item is entered in the wrong class of accounts. So you can see the difference. For errors of commission, we are entering the transaction in a wrong personal account. Error of principle, we are entering the transaction in a wrong class of account. For example, a sale of what? A sale of a fixed asset. For example, a sale of fixed asset, i.e. a motor vehicle, assuming motor vehicle, is credited to a sales account. Is credited to the sales account. Now, this is an example of error of principle. Error of principle. Can I give you another example? Purchase of a fixed asset entered in the, say, motor repairs expense account. Okay, so still here we are entering in a wrong class of account. So trial balance will still balance as long as the double entry is completed well, debit with a corresponding credit. But remember, it's a wrong class of what? It's a wrong class of account. So your trial balance will still balance. So that is error of principle. Then the fourth error we can look at is complete reverse of entries. We have what we call errors of complete reversal of entries. Errors of complete reversal of entries. Errors of complete reversal of entries. When it comes to this is where the correct accounts are used, where correct accounts are used, but each item is shown on the wrong side. On the wrong side of the account. Complete reverse of entries. You reverse the entries. But each item is shown on the wrong side of the what? On the wrong side of the account. So instead of debiting, you instead credit. Instead of crediting, you debit. Okay. So for example, I'll give you a simple example here. For example, suppose For example, suppose you paid electricity. For example, suppose you paid electricity by check, by check, by check for, okay, by check for 20,000 US dollars. In error, if it is entered as debit cash book, and the credit electricity account, of course, the trial balance totals will still agree. The trial balance totals will still agree. So suppose you're paying electricity by check, 20,000. Here the double entry would have been debiting electricity and then credit your cash book. But we see that in error, we do the reverse. Instead of crediting the cash book, we debit our cash book and then credit electricity account. Now the trial balance totals will still agree, but of course there is an error that has been made. Entries have been reversed. Instead of crediting, we are debiting, and instead of debiting, we are crediting. Of course, they wanted 4 errors that would not affect the trial balance agreement. We have some other errors which we can other errors which do not affect the trial balance agreement, which you can also look at. We have errors of original entry, errors of original entry. We have compensating errors, etc. So that is part B of the question. Those are some of the errors that will not affect the trial balance agreement. Your trial balance will still agree, or the trial balance will still be in agreement if all those errors are made. Then part C, you're provided with a list of balances extracted from the ledger accounts of Sarah traders as at 30th June 2020. So you have the following details. UGX, level of rounding is 1,000. You have capital, furniture, sales, purchases, debtors, creditors, liabilities, creditors, rent, other expenses, electricity, wages, and then salary, cash at hand, then cash at bank. Required extract Sarah traders 12 balance as at 30th June 2020. Now, here, of course, they have done the balancing of the different accounts. They have just given you the list of balances, so they want you to come up with a simple trial balance. There is something you simply need to learn, which I normally give to my students to remember how to come up with the trial balance. There is this simple acronym, which is known as DEAD click. So this is debit. D stands for debit. Now, when it comes to debits, what you need to know is that expenses have a debit balance, assets also have a debit balance, then the drawings also have a debit balance. The drawings also have a debit, also have a debit balance. Then we also have C, which stands for credit. So C stands for credit, whereby for liabilities, they have a credit balance, incomes, a credit balance, then capital also has a credit balance. So you can follow this. If you're to extract a trial balance, you need to know which account has a debit balance and then which account has a credit balance. So we are going to use this information to come up with our trial balance for Sarah Traders as at 30th June 2020. So let me show you how we can come up with our trial balance from this list of balances extracted from the ledger accounts of Sarah. So you have to write the heading. So here we have Sarah Traders. So you write Sarah Traders trial balance as at 30th June 2020. So you have to come up with a heading. Don't forget that the trial balance is always the trial balance always has the date of the last day of the accounting period for which it relates. So it's a snapshot of the balances on the ledger accounts at that date. So this is our trial balance. Of course, I have to show the account titles. So I'll show the accounts, then debit, and then credit. So this is our trial balance. You have to write the heading, underline it very well. Then you show the accounts. We need the debit column as well as the credit column. Don't forget to put shillings. I'm not going to round off. I'm going to show the full amounts with all the figures. So now we can start. Just take you back briefly to the question. We see we have capital, furniture, sales, purchases, debtors, creditors, rent, office expenses, electricity, wages, salary. Then we also have cash at hand and then cash at bank. Let us come up with our trial balance very fast. I'll be writing the accounts and then the balances which we have. So we have capital. Capital, we have 13 millions. So capital, that is a credit. So we credit, we put the balance on the credit column of our trial balance. Then we have furniture. Furniture is an asset, so that's a debit balance, 4,200,000. 4,200,000. Then we also have sales. These are incomes, credit balance, 16,700,000. Then we have the purchases. Purchases, these are items of expense. So 8,200,000 debit, column of the trial balance. Then you have the debtors. Debtors, those are current assets to the business. Assets have a normal debit balance brought down. Then you have the creditors. Creditors, these are current liabilities to the business. Current liabilities, that is a normal credit balance. So we'll put that on the credit. Then we have rent. Rent is an expense. Expense accounts have a debit balance, that is 700,000. Then we have office expenses. Office expenses. Office expenses. Expenses have a normal debit balance, so you debit. Then we have electricity. These are expenses. Electricity, normal debit balance of 2 millions. Then we have the wages. Oh, sorry. We have the wages. Wages, these are expenses. Normal debit balance, 800,000. The salary. Salary, these are also expenses. Oh, down here. Salary. Salary, 2 millions. That's an expense account, debit. Then from the salaries, you have cash at hand. We have cash at hand. Cash at hand. Cash at hand, these are current assets to the business. Debit balance. So you debit, you put in the debit column of the trial balance. Then you also have cash at bank. Cash at bank, this is a current asset to the business. So debit, we enter this in the debit column of the trial balance. So that is our simple trial balance. Now let us see the totals. Let us come up with the totals. Don't forget, debits should equal to the credits. The total debit balances should equal to the total credit balances. So I'm going to sum up all the debit balances. So that's what we have. Then I'm also going to sum up the balances on the credit. So sum up our balances on the credit column of the trial balance. So that is our trial balance. And we can see that it is in agreement. The total debit balances equal to the total credit balances. That's what we have. These are our balances, as you can see. Those are our balances. 32,800,000. So that's what we have. So our trial balance totals are in agreement. Yeah, so in this video, we have seen how to prepare the trial balance from a list of the ledger account balances of Sala traders. In my next video, we shall see how we can prepare financial statements from the trial balance prepared. Thank you for watching. I remain your tutor, Senior Huntington. Don't forget to share with those other friends as long as you believe that the content on my channel benefits them. Bye bye. for now.